On this webinar, we're going to go through the 4 steps of entrepreneurship. My co-hosts are Gavin and Steve, and what we're going to do is help you identify where you are on your journey. So this is a very key part of entrepreneurship, and we often find it when we're dealing with business owners that they think they're in a position which they're not, and it helps add value if you know where you are and just helps you on that process. So handing over to you, Gavin, do you want to take them through stage 1?
Yep. So hi everyone. I'm Gavin, part of the Synergy team, and in terms of the first stage, really, I mean, unless you're acquiring an existing business, and I'm sure for lots of people on this call, the first stage really is the classic solopreneur. So this really means no staff. It means that the business owner is basically doing everything for themselves. And I think what we might see in the future is, and I think this is a Sam Altman of OpenAI prediction, we might see billion-dollar companies run by one person and AI in the future. But I mean, generally speaking, the owner is on their own. They might be leveraging some kind of tech, might be leveraging AI in their business. They might be leveraging capital, but I suppose the point is that they won't really be directly leveraging other people's time in their own business. Might be using external people, but they won't be leveraging sort of directly people in the business. And I think many owners won't actually graduate beyond this point. Some of them will just sort of remain a solopreneur, which is fine. But it's really at this stage that the entrepreneur who is going on a more complete journey, if you like, is actually using this stage more as a proof of concept stage. So they're sort of asking themselves the question, is there a market for their product? Is there a market for their service? They're also really exploring what that sort of minimum viable product is, how it's going to be delivered, making sure that the unit economics of the product or service work, and is it scalable? And as I said, I mean, typically for a period of time before recruiting, hiring other people, the business owner is not just working every single hour that God gives, but also they're learning how to do everything, sort of generally speaking. So they're learning lots of new skills, but they're also sort of asking themselves the question, when is the right time to start hiring to grow the business? And specifically, they're asking themselves, who they should be hiring, what's the first role, and when they can afford it financially. Because one thing we sort of see time and time again with any business, whether it's the first employee or whether it's the 100th, is when can a business afford it? And often business owners wait too long to pull the trigger on that one. But I'll hand over to Steve for the next stage.
Yeah, stage 2. So we've now got to that, and it's difficult, isn't it? Because you're at a stage where you're doing everything, and it's like that, the same point as when is the right time to have a child? Well, it isn't. You have one, and then you kind of you learn to live with it, don't you? That kind of thing. And 5 children later, I think I've probably learnt my lesson. But at this stage, at stage 2, you've now got the owner and you've got some staff in the business. You're starting to delegate some of those key tasks in the business, and it frees up your time, ideally, where you could be more strategic, but it's not happening just yet. That's going to come in at a later stage, which we'll go into in a minute. The bottleneck is still you as the business owner, because everything is still, well, if we can just flick back to that last slide,
Oh,
just 1
sorry.
second, Rob.
Yeah, sorry.
At this stage, though, what we haven't got is an awful lot of clarity. Yes, you brought some people in, and that it's a godsend to you because they're now starting to do some of the things that you don't have the time to do or don't want to do. But it's all still a little bit messy. There aren't any standard operating procedures. Nobody's really got a clear role in the business, and everybody's really coming into you. So it's a very what's the term now? There's
Owner-centric.
no. Sorry, say again, Rob.
Owner-centric.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's everything. It's like a pyramid, isn't it? Everything has to come through you. If we could just go on to that next slide, please.
Yeah, sure.
So where we need to get to is you've got to delegate a lot more. You've got to start put a lot more structure into this business. Everybody knows exactly what is expected of them, and they're given that opportunity to grow and develop within that role. So effectively, the way we describe this is you're moving from a hero because you're doing everything to becoming a leader in that business. And then we can start to, as that develops and we've got more structure around the business, we can then start to think about how we move to stage 3.
Yeah, so when you're on stage 3, when I talk to most business owners, I tend to find there's somewhere between 2 and 3, normally speaking, and they kind of get stuck at this point. And it's that letting go of that control that you've got in the earlier stages of your development as an entrepreneur. So your managers should run the day-to-day. Owners should focus on strategy more than the operations, but that's where that disconnect comes. It's always going back into those roles and responsibilities, which is what Steve and Gavin were talking about, is that as you're developing a company, you think you're the only person that can do that job. But putting in KPIs, accountability, business becomes more transferable to a new owner. And this is where the value really starts to build in a business. So the real shift is that you can manage the outcomes, not the people. Decisions become data-driven. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to a point where you're having an overview of the business rather than an operational view. And from a buyer's perspective, and also when you want to exit your business, that's a far more attractive position to be in, because now the new owner's looking to buy not so much of a job as more of an asset, and that's where you want to get to. So that's where you lead into the level 4, and what we do more than anything else is we want to transition you from that 2, 3 up to a level 4. So, guys, where would you say that the biggest value add is to get those operators from 2 and 3 up to level 4?
Well, for me, I mean, I think one of the things that sort of stands out in terms of, you know, the sort of typical conversation we'll have with business owners that are looking to move to stage 4 is that sometimes they feel that they're already in stage 4. I'm not sure if you'd agree with that. But I think more often than not, what you tend to find is that there's a lot of business owners that might have one foot in and one foot out. And it's really the scenario where perhaps they've already hired some senior staff. They might have an MD in place. They might have something of a senior leadership team in place. And they might also be spending some of their time doing more strategic things. But then what happens is there's some emergency or there's some issue with the top 1, 2, 3 customers of that business, and they very often get pulled back in, or the typical things that will happen where they might have an MD, the MD might leave, or there might be an issue with performance. And time and again, you see them being pulled back in, and suddenly they feel, actually, maybe I need to be more operational for the next 6 months of the next year, because they don't actually have a lot of those sort of systems, processes, frameworks, culture in place that enables them to truly be an investor in their own business. I mean, I'm not sure if that's something for you guys that you see, sort of out in the
Very much so. I mean, from my perspective, a number of businesses I've personally been involved with where we've taken over, there are very large gaps, and you tend to find that one member of staff will do one role, one will do another, and the business owner is actually the link between the two. There's no direct handover between 2 members of staff because they either don't trust, or they think they can do it better, or they just don't identify that they've created a system or a process or that they're actually part of. And what they should do is take themselves out of it and be strategic, because they should no longer be operationally involved at this point. Or actually, for me, when I grew my business at level 3, I was actually not operationally involved once I got to level 2 to 3. And I did that very consciously because I wanted to strategically grow the company and the group. So I took myself out. Now, for me, a very quick test is, could you walk away from your business and in 30 or 90 days come back and it's still exactly as it was, or even ideally even better? If the answer is no, then you're a 2 or a 3. Yeah. If
Yeah.
it's yes, then you're more than likely a 3 to a 4. That's my opinion. What's yours?
Yeah, we saw it. We bought a leisure company down in the southwest just over 12 months ago now, and what we'd found is that the owner, whilst he was trying to progress through the various stages, he was very much still at level 2 at best. And what we found is when we took him out of the business, none of the staff knew what to do, and because they were used to being spoon fed. Then anytime it got anything a little bit tricky, he would just take over and say, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll do that." So he wasn't really progressing at all through the business, through the various stages. So yeah, and that was something we had to address really quickly because the staff didn't appear to. Initially, they appeared not to be able to think for themselves, but that in reality, it wasn't the case. They're just never being given the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of the cases is that business owners, like it says, comfort, a fear of letting go is that they think they're the only ones who can do a particular task or role or whatever the case may be. And to a degree, they are right, that no one will ever put the amount of effort in that they because they're emotionally invested in the business, where generally speaking, a team member will be driven by their paycheck and doing a good job, of course, but not have the same level of commitment as the owner would have. So therefore, and also the number of hours business owners put in compared to a team member is going to be dramatically different in a lot of cases until they get to level 4.
So here's a question for you, because I think there's plenty of you sort of hit the nail on the head there, because there's plenty of business owners that they love what they're doing, that they sort of associate any mention of the word exit as equating with retirement, which is not something to be sort of confronted. What would you say is the benefit, the incentive for a business owner wanting to achieve stage 4?
For me, it turns it from a job into an asset. You've heard me say this many times when we've been talking to business owners. And I don't think all business owners really can relate to this. When we talk to business owners, they say, "Oh, I want to exit the business," and they'll come up with a whole load of reasons why. But generally, it's that they're operationally involved and they're kind of like had it up to here, or they're worn out, or they just want something different. Whereas if they got to level 4, it becomes an income generating asset. And then the question is, why would you sell your business? Because if you're level 1, 2, or 3, you're selling a job, right? With the greatest respect to a greater or lesser degree. When you get to level 4, the business is now making you money, irrespective of whether you're there or not. So get there, and then you ask yourself a question: why are you going to sell the business? Because what you're going to do when you sell the business anyway, you're going to go and find an income generating asset. Well, you just built one. Why would you sell it?
Yeah.
So that's my perspective. What's
Yeah,
yours?
and that's where we see the benefit as well. When we start to look at synergy groups, anybody who gets to level 4, they can now start to think about, well, what can I do to grow, to put a group together? Because I've got one asset that I don't need to be there. It's generating cash for me. What if I could turn this into something a lot larger? Some people have got in the back of their minds legacy. It can build a really significant legacy for themselves. And this is where we found the benefit, don't we, with the synergy groups.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is the transition plan. If you don't understand what your own transition plan is, it's very difficult to decide where you want to jump off. If you're just getting out through pressure because of, whatever it is, a lot of the time people don't build in their own income into business, so they work, or they build one, but they don't get enough just rewards for their time they put in. So by becoming strategic, you can take a salary or wage, whatever it is you like to call it, a dividends, and you can go and do something else with your time. So that's you get that multiple income streams. That's where I ideally like to be.
One thing that strikes me when we're sort of getting to this stage of business owners is really that we call it optionality, but the sort of plain language really is just choices as to what they want to do. Because I think often that sort of first, second conversation with a business owner might be more geared towards and exit always within that sort of 2 to 3 year period, isn't it? Rather than sort of imminently. But I think once you sort of move through some of these stages and get to that sort of stage four, at least business owners understanding that maybe stage four is slightly different to what they think it was, or where they are currently, that there's different choices about whether it's a sort of full exit, a partial exit, or maybe no exit, but just other tools and other sort of instruments to give capital events and more choices for the business.
I think the other side of it is the valuation of the company dramatically changes from my point of view. Would I buy a company where the owner's one, two, or three, and I need to replace them with another employee, basically, or a team? Or do I want somebody who's in four and then I'm buying an income generating asset? Well, I'd buy a stage four company every day of the week over one, two, or three. So from a buyer's perspective, I think it becomes a far more attractive proposition. And then from the seller, as in the business owner's perspective, they've got far better position for pushing the price up, because they're going, well, go and find another one. Because in reality, I don't know you guys think this, but I'd say the vast majority of companies are not really in a position to be sold. They
Yeah,
haven't got, there's leaving so much money on the table and so much opportunity and leverage that the new buyers coming in and takes full advantage of it very quickly,
yeah,
and gets that upside, and the business owners exiting or got unrealistic expectations because they've put that time and effort in, that blood, sweat, and years, and they think they should get that just reward. Well, get to level four and you can, in my opinion.
yeah. 'Cause a lot of business owners don't they? They think it's as simple as, well, I'll just put a for sale sign up outside and we'll sell it, and I'll learn to play golf and sail a yacht and do everything else. And it takes time to get to that stage. And like Rob said, I'd be quite happy to pay top dollar for a business, knowing that all the systems are in place, the marketing's right, everything's there and running really well. Because what it also gives me is a platform business on which I can build another group around it. Because any business that I bring in, if it's not at stage four, well, I have all the systems and processes that I can implement in those businesses. So I can bring that business up to our level. And now I've got two companies that are completely autonomous and can run without me being involved. And the valuation then starts to significantly ramp up, because if you're paying three times your profit when you buy one, well, once you put two or three together, you might get four, five, six. So you're significantly improving the valuation of the group as a whole.
We had exactly that with a company that had an EBIT of 384,000, I think it was, something like that. Give it three times multiple, rough valuation, £1 million. And then we got the EBIT up to 500,000. And then you've got, with the group around it, suddenly the multiple goes up to four. Even on its own, it goes up to four. So we now got a 2 million valuation just by increasing the EBIT by 116,000. We changed the valuation from 1 to 2 million. And by putting that level four in, that makes it far more attractive. And I'm more likely to pay the 2 million than the one as a job. Don't
So
know
we've
about
just
you
we
guys.
we just yeah, I would agree. There's a couple of questions here. So the first one is, what is the valuation discount you put on businesses across all stages, assuming stage four has zero valuation discount?
That's an interesting question. Um, I mean, from my perspective, I give it just a lower multiple.
Yeah,
So I don't know about you guys, but I would start, generally speaking, around the three. And if it's a one, I would go much lower. If it's a two, I go a bit lower. And if it's a three, I go slightly lower. And if it's a four, then I'm more likely to go three or above.
yeah,
That's my general
yeah,
rule. Yeah,
yeah, I'd agree with that.
yeah.
And we've got a follow-up question. What is the real difference between stage two and stage three? Just the presence of a management in three?
Yep. Shall we go back?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we go back, so stage two, yes. So it's more that you've got the systems and processes and the management in place. So generally speaking, when you're on stage two, you've got owner plus staff. You don't tend to have systems and processes, but by putting that management in, you've also got KPIs, reporting, management reports, all sorts of other things. Would you agree with that?
Would, yeah, absolutely.
So that, see there, you've got KPIs, accountability. You could have that without a management team, but unlikely in most cases, in my opinion.
So any other questions have we got for us?
So what we can do is go through where synergy fits and supports. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay. So synergy groups supports each stage because it doesn't matter where you are on your journey. What we want to try and do is get all companies owners to level 4 before they do their transition. So transition isn't necessarily an exit. We can just help you grow organically. Where it's basically about adding value to your journey. That's what we're trying to do. It's not about we're not trying to shoehorn you into an idea that we've got. It's about understanding what you're trying to achieve and us helping you achieve that as fast as possible. Now, ultimately, we are buyers and we do build groups. So if that's part of your strategy, that will fit in well. So stage 1 is that clarity and direction. Stage 2, providing that structure and leverage. Stage 3, scale and integration. And stage 4, group strategy and exit planning. Now, like I said, you could do succession planning is something that if you go back to what I was saying earlier about the level 1, 2, and 3, a lot of people in that stage will look for an exit. But if you get to level 4, you might consider, and I say this to business owners, I say, when you get to level 4, no doubt you're going to say to me, you know what, I said I wanted to sell my business. Well, now I'm thinking about succession planning because now I've got an income generating asset. And that's where we can help build that wealth management, that longevity, and that kind of longer thinking strategy for you and your family as time goes on.
And I think that's a current theme, really, that we see an awful lot is around the business owner's idea about where they want to get to changing over time. And it's completely right that you mentioned as a stage 4 that often that you know the sort of the ground will change and the views will change. But actually, you get that at the very beginning, don't you? So when we go in and sort of with stage 1, companies are getting the sort of clarity and direction. What we will have, typically in, before we reach a agreement and start sort of actively working with a business, the initial discussions, there might be real clarity already with the business owners, but it doesn't mean that clarity won't change as soon as we start working together. We see that, don't we, even in the first few months, that that direction starts to shift sometimes, and what was a priority to begin with actually is less of a priority as you go through time.
What I do find interesting is that one particular business owner we're speaking to, they came with one idea to the table with us. We went through a process with them. They shifted away from it. And then over time, they've actually come back to it, to their original plan, which is totally fine. I mean, the whole idea of this is that Synergy Groups is very flexible in its way, and it flexes with your change of mind, desires, aspirations at any point in your journey. So it's not a rigid system. It's more like understanding where you are in that moment in time and how we can give maximum value for your journey.
I think the other thing as well is that, most business owners don't want to make really important decisions before they have to make those decisions. And they want to know what the choices are, but they don't want to necessarily commit. I mean, there are certain things, obviously, the direction of travel is very important, but there are certain things, direct listing is one of them, where actually there are certain steps that need to happen before that, and those steps need to be taken in sequence, in order, at the right time, rather than, investing time, effort, energy, resource into something that they might change their minds about later. So I think, it's sort of important to recognise that the synergy model allows that flexibility.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's an important question that all business owners should ask themselves. Here's a quick self-assessment. There's no right or wrong answer to this. And it doesn't matter where you are on your journey. You could be running I've seen big businesses where they're still level two, and there's no problem with that at all. But it's understanding where you are and what needs to be done to maximize the value of your company, give you peace of mind and a better lifestyle for a start. If nothing else, if all you want to do is have a better work-life balance, this is the thing for you to understand where you are on your journey. Yeah, because a lot of the time we lose sight of where we are because we're so, if you're right next to the coalface, you can't see the bigger picture. So you need to be able to step back. And the more you can step back, the more you can see the bigger picture, the more you can relax, go and do what you want to do. And you'll see opportunities in your own business that you didn't notice while you were on the coalface. I find that quite often that once business owners step away, they suddenly go, oh, well, we could do this, that, and the other. They get really excited about what they can do with their business. And you think, well, that was always there, but they just didn't see it until they were able to step back.
Yeah, it's greater clarity of thinking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got another question just come through. How do you think about cannibalization in your broader strategy when helping companies in the industry you're building a group in to also grow?
Do you mean by merging two companies?
I think that's the case. So there's a second part was this is something I've been thinking through as I go out to speak with business owners, knowing some might not want a full exit.
True. I personally don't like merging two companies. I find it creates a bad. Sorry, bear with me. It creates um, it doesn't create a good synergy, ironically. So personally, I prefer to keep all companies in a group as keep their identity, keep their culture, keep the people all separate. And if there is natural cross-sell, upsell, assets that you can use across the group or things like that, then that's fine. But you keep the people and the culture and the brand separate within a group. That's me personally. I know there's plenty of people that do mergers. Me personally, I've never seen one done successfully without causing a lot of carnage.
I think there's also a suggestion there in the question around sort of market consolidation to some extent. And I think, also to that point, there are certain industries and certain types of companies actually that fit very well together and others that just don't. And I think, one of the things we see is where you have businesses that might be direct competitors in another world, but just it's geography that makes them a very good fit. That one might be the north of the country, one might be the south of the country, and that can work very well. But I think you have to be careful with bringing together, whether it's a formal merger or not, a bunch of competitors.
I mean, the caveat to that is if it's a distressed company and it's about to close, then yes, obviously you could take staff, client base, any assets and move it and merge it with your stronger company, that's fine. But when you've got two strong companies or you two mediocre companies, I personally don't think it's a good idea. I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
Like I would much rather see them run autonomously. So they've
Yeah.
got, they've got their own teams, they're running their own way. It works for a reason. So I always tend to let them run on their own. And then from a financial point of view, yes, you consolidate, but operationally keep them separate.
Yeah. So just look at those four questions that you should be asking yourself. Where do this decisions sit? Are they sat with the operating team members or with yourself? If they're with yourself, start pushing them down the line. From my perspective, I think what you should do is get used to thinking, right, okay, what am I doing in the business today? If there's anything you're doing it, who can I hand it off to? Yeah. That's the habit you should get into doing. Like, can I put it into one of the existing systems? Can I hand it off to someone? Why am I doing it? Yeah. Is the question you should be asking yourself.
I think one thing that we've seen in a number of businesses as well is where that's half-heartedly done. Again, it comes back to the sort of foot in both camps.
Yes.
And there's an element of as you say, sort of pushing it down the line from a sort of responsibility point of view. But when it comes to how that's managed, it's actually micromanaged. So in terms of the teams who have that responsibility, they're not really accountable. So they're still being, let's say, supervised in everything that they do, which kind of detracts really from their autonomy and also provides that overhead for the owner that still hasn't actually let go of those tasks.
Yeah.
Right, so what have we got next?
Your journey from here. What's next? So progress should be intentional, not accidental. So you need to have a very clear view of where you are. This is why it's key to knowing which one of the four you are and how you're going to get to the next level. Don't skip levels. It's a temptation that you go, say you're an owner operator and you want to get to level 3 in one go. You're going to have, in my opinion, total carnage if you suddenly start to put managers in place without having proper systems and processes in and building those teams out. I tried it myself. Back in the 90s, I had an internet service provider. I grew it fast and I put management into certain places before I was actually ready for them. I don't know if you had similar experiences, Steve or Gavin.
Yeah, so as we're building up the leisure group, we've seen something that's very, very similar at the minute. And what we inherited was something that was just drifting along. There was no real 5-year plan. They were quite happy to do the same sort of numbers every year because it gave them a lifestyle that they were accustomed to. Whereas what we wanted to do was we had an ambition to grow it into something completely different, and really build it up and put other groups together, other businesses together that fit really nicely.
I'm going to use, sorry, I'm going to use my 3 questions, and it's something that is relevant to this. It's why you're here, what you're trying to achieve, and what's your end goal. As a business owner, if you don't know why you're turning up every day, if you're just turning up to do a job, guess where you're going to stay? Yes, you're going to stay being operational. If your strategy is to get to the next level, what you focus on improves. So you need a clear plan about why you're going in every day and what you're going to do to get to that next stage. And for me, that is one of the key parts of this whole process. It's think how you can get what's it called? Make yourself redundant from your own company, and put all those things in place, and then replicate it. Now, keeping the companies autonomous, as you were saying earlier, Steve, I think is a really important part because if one goes down, it doesn't pull the whole ship down. Yes. So that's another part about not merging companies, because especially as we saw during COVID, some companies went well, some crashed. Well, you don't want them all in one pot. You ideally want multiple pots, especially seasonal businesses is a good one. We had one in Canada where there was a ski shop and a paddleboard company. Well, when one was in the off season, the other one was in the peak season. So they joined part of a group, and now they have all year round support for one another, which worked out rather well. So that's one example. I don't know if you've had something similar, guys.
Yeah, because when we look at the way that you can create the leverage, you've got access to the talent in the other businesses. You've got you may have access to new geographical locations. I think that was the case in the one in Canada. You had similar experiences there, Rob, didn't you?
Yeah. They
So
were within
yeah,
10 miles of each other.
yeah. So there's a number of different ways that the group as a whole, 1 and 1 makes 3 is where you're trying to get to, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But always remember it's your pace, your journey, but you need a plan. Yeah. If you don't have a plan, you'll stay, you in a year's time, you'll be exactly where you were, or are right now. So have that Kaizen principle where you're constantly making incremental changes. Now, I know it's a difficult thing to do to let go because, well, for some people it's easier than others, but I've been there, and it is letting go of certain things is difficult because you've got that trust in there, you've got that, well, I know best, you've got a whole load of things that go on in your head, but they are important stages. And once you do let go, you wonder why you didn't do it beforehand.
Right, then next slide. There we go.
Yeah. So what can you do? So you can book a call with us if you want to start your journey and just have an open discussion with us. We're more than happy to jump on a call with you and just see how we can help you. There's no commitment. It's just understanding where you are. And if we can add value to your journey, then great. Yes, we can look to build a group. You could join one of our groups. In fact, every month we're going to be announcing a different group. So we've got one next week, which we'll be announcing, and the following week, I believe, or the week after. So we've got a number of groups. I think it's 8 or 9 groups already within the Synergy model. So if you come along to those calls, you might find a group that you want to join, or it might give you inspiration to start your own group.
And that's the thing is, what you'll be able to see from next week's call is somebody who's been through the process. We've taken them through, so you'll be able to hear directly from their own experiences what worked really well, what didn't go so well, what they've learned from things. So, if you get the opportunity, do join us next week, because I think you'll learn a hell of a lot from the way that they've transformed over the last few months, haven't they?
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, from my perspective, the reason why we're doing the calls with the business owners so that we're completely transparent. We don't hide anything. You can ask them any questions. You can ask what it's like to work with us. Did they get value? Did they get what they expected? You'll be able to come on those calls every time we announce a group, and you'll be able to see exactly what they've done with us. So we're not hiding anything. There's nothing hidden behind closed doors. It's all out there in the open for everyone to see.
Yeah.
So
Another
just
question.
another question that's come in actually. What is your criteria? Is there a minimum level of turnover profit?
No, not
Is that
really.
Elon again?
Sorry?
Is that Elon Musk again? He keeps getting on these calls, doesn't he?
Yeah, I hate when he does that. Yes. No, we're not
So
going to help him with SpaceX. No, not SpaceX. Yes. Anyway.
yeah, so minimum deal criteria, guys.
I mean, for me, it depends, because for a platform company, you ideally want to be around somewhere between 250,000 and 500,000 EBIT. Um, there's a number of reasons for that, because it gives you more options, but it doesn't mean to say you can't be less than that, because we can put you together with a number of companies to make the same amount of EBIT. Uh, the strategy, the reason why I'm mentioning that is one of our strategies is to do a direct listing, and in order to do that, you need a minimum of 500,000 EBIT. But like I said, we can have more than one company in a group. It also gives you, it's a break point of a multiple, 500,000. So I don't know if you'd agree with that, guys, but for me, it's kind of that there or thereabouts between the 250,000 and 500,000 minimum.
I would
Yeah,
say so, yeah, for a platform company, particularly for a direct listing. But of course, other businesses want to be part of a group without necessarily being the platform company. And I think if there are synergies with those particular businesses and the platform company, that can be very interesting. And as we know, there's quite a lot of difference between, from one group to another as to, turnover and profit. Some are, sort of 50 million plus turnover, others are smaller, but it really depends on the sort of group that the business owners want to build, and what the opportunity looks like.
Yeah, exactly. So as it says here, most business owners don't fail. They just get stuck in the wrong role for too long. And that's exactly what we've been talking about today. It's just keep moving. I mean, the thing for me is that you got off your ass, so to speak, and you set up a company, you've grown it for X number of years. But I think the problem is the longer you stay in that role, you kind of get like, this is where I'm meant to be kind of attitude, rather than, well, hang on a sec, I got here, I solved the problem why I set up the business, but I'm not actually solving my own problem, which is moving up the levels. Do you agree with that, guys?
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So are there any other questions?
We've got another one just come in, or a couple more things. How does the select synergy team get rewarded?
So what's the business model?
Yeah, so we come on as board advisors. So if we're going to work with you, we come on as board advisors. But like I said, it's a value driven thing. So initially we have a 3-stage process. Well, actually 4 now, and we've got a number of things that we want to do in each of the stages. But it's all about that adding value to your journey. And then when we build a group, then we'll take an equity position in the group and we'll build a group around that. But at no point is it about taking money off your table. It's more than adding value, isn't it? I don't know if you agree with that, guys. Is that a good way of framing it?
Yeah, the whole purpose really is as we say to all business owners, really, it's to be a profit center, not to be a cost center. And I think the
That's the
way
word I was looking for.
go about things, it's twofold really. On the more operational side, we're looking to, you know, reduce costs, increase profit, and I think on the the bigger picture in terms of group building, it's creating more value in the business and increasing the valuation overall of the business, so that our contribution is in terms of what we would get from it in terms of fees or equity or anything else is a very small proportion of the uplift in value and valuation for your business.
Yeah, well, like I was saying before, the company that I worked with where we took them from a 1 million valuation to a 2 million valuation, I increased their exit by an extra million. I certainly didn't charge them that. So, whatever my fees were, they were a minute percentage of that uplift. So that's the point is you're trying to look at what the value add is that we bring rather than the cost of it. There's one question there that is, what if you guys are helping my business? Are you looking for a stake? Well, we can take a stake in your business if you want, to release some equity in your company. That's fine. But generally speaking, you can hold on to 100% of your shares while you go through phase 1 and 2, and we'll take an equity stake in the group holding company as we bring in those other companies into the group. So there's a number of different ways we can do it. It's about, like I said before, it's about your journey and understanding what you're trying to achieve and where you feel most comfortable. We want this as a frictionless process. So me personally, I don't like pushing mud up a hill. So I much prefer that when you see us coming into Zoom calls or walking into your office, it's like, hey, it's these guys. We know they add value. We want to work with them, rather than saying, oh, geez, they're back again. Do we have to put up with them? If that's ever the case, we walk. Just so we're very clear, I don't see any point in any relationship turning up just when the other person's not engaged. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Yeah, we've seen it before, haven't we? And no matter what you try to do to help them, it just falls on deaf ears, and God, they've got the wrong mindset, and it's you'll never achieve what you're trying to do whilst they've got that or they haven't got that growth mindset. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. So have we covered all the questions?
I think we have. Up to
Right.
now, any other questions, guys?
Oh, one's just came in. Can you build a group and direct list that group by creating a top co, or how might that work? Yes, you can. You can. Well, Steve, you pick that one up.
Yeah, we're in the middle of one at the moment, actually. So yes, you put the group together, and because of the way that we structure that, because we've got a number of pillars within the Synergy ecosystem, if you like, if we can direct list any one of those at any time. And there's a certain process that we go through in order to help you achieve that. So it's quite a methodical approach that we take. But yes, the answer is yes, it can be done. But if you want to jump on a call with us, and we'll talk you through that.
Yeah, no problem at all. So was there any other questions, or should we just do a quick recap of the 4 levels before we sign off, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, let's have a quick recap, shall we?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So bear with me 2 seconds. Right. Okay. So we got, let's see. So you got the 4 steps, which is the owner plus staff, owner plus management plus staff, and then you've got the board members. So they're the 4 levels that traditionally are the most common ones. And then you've got stage 1, which is the owner. Did you want to pick that one up, Gavin? Just very high level?
Just before we move on to that, in the chat, could you all put in the chat which level do you think you're currently at? This is when we find out who's asleep.
Don't make me laugh. I've got a
So
cough.
if you're at level 1, just put 1. Level 2, just put a 2, or level up to level 4.
So while people are thinking about that, just to sort of run through those stages again. So just stage 1, then the owner. Typically, owner is doing everything, learning lots of skills, not getting a lot of sleep, and really just proof of concept. It might be a very profitable venture, but they're not directly leveraging the time of anybody else directly into their company.
Yeah. So basically, the key transition questions are these. So do you want to go through those?
Yeah, so really, in terms of sort of moving beyond this initial phase, it's about asking these questions. So, what are the tasks that you have to stop doing and delegate to someone else? Actually, one of the things that we often do with business owners, and it's a very simple task, is literally doing a time study of their working week. What are they spending their time on? What is the value of those tasks? And it might be deemed as something that's very important, or something of something the business owner enjoys doing, but it might actually be quite a low value task. So those are often the things that you want to sort of offload first. Yeah, the second question really, what am I good at and what am I tolerating? Obviously, it's better to bring in hires and experts doing things that you're not very good at or that you don't like doing. And then the sort of most important bit really is what happens if you move away. Now, there's some businesses that are highly automated that might allow you to walk away, or at least to be remote in how you manage your business. But basically, for most business owners, it's walking away for a day when it's just the owner is going to cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, and it's something we've all been guilty of, isn't it? There's those tasks within the business that you really enjoy doing, and actually, that it's not the best use of your time. I've done it many times, and I've had to sort of stop myself from getting involved in it because I've got people who can do it probably far better than I can. It's just something I like.
Yeah. So do you want to take this one, Steve, again? Just quick high
Yeah,
level.
yeah. So we've got onto stage two. So we've now got staff in the business, so we're able to start delegating some of those tasks. But the bottleneck is still you. There's a pyramidal system, if you like, where the buck stops with you. Let's put it that way. And everything's still a little bit messy. There's not a lot of structure in the business. The roles aren't clearly defined. Um, and really, you've still got a job. It's just that you've got one or two other people helping you to get some of the tasks done. So we will still classify this as being a high risk business. And as a high risk business, if you're looking to exit at some point for maximum value, you're not going to get it whilst you're at stage two.
One of the things that I tend to find with stage two businesses, it's very much run like a family business, and they're almost like members of the family, and they struggle to get the management team in because you've got that relationship. And that's something that why a lot of business owners really struggle to get from stage two to stage three, in my opinion. So it's like these parts that you were talking about earlier, Steve.
Yeah, and so from doing everything that we talked about, it's just making sure you've got the people that's actually now going to take that off your shoulders. You're putting all the standard operating procedures in place. There's a way that this business operates, and everybody knows it. It's almost like having a how-to manual. So anybody coming into the business new, they say, here's the folder, here are all the files. This is how we do things at XYZ Limited. And that's the key transition is you're going from being the hero where you're doing everything to being the leader of this business, but knowing there's still more that you need to do to transition on.
Yeah, personally, I don't know if you found the same thing, but when I've scaled companies where you do get to level three and you start putting management in place, one of the most difficult things I think business owners struggle with is promotion of staff and putting that management. They say, okay, should I get a manager in because I now need to have that disconnect? Or do I promote someone from the family up to being a manager? It's a very tough transition for most business owners that I've personally come across. I know that when I did it myself, I made a number of mistakes because I've said to certain members of the staff that were when it was just me and the staff that when we start to grow, I'll put you up as a manager. The problem was is one particular person couldn't step up as a manager. And then I was caught in this really painful position is do I put them back as a member of the team and hire a manager above them, or do I have to let them go? And it was a really painful process that I had to go through. Have you been in that situation, Steve or Gavin?
Yeah, I have. I'm trying to think of a specific example I can share with everybody that And my mind has gone blank, unfortunately.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, from my perspective, bringing in the management team and when you're promoting people, I think people often promote the wrong people. They promote them because they like the people. They promote them because they're the best at the job. Um, Somebody I know really well once told me never be the best at your job because you're less likely to be promoted. And the reason being is why would a business owner promote the very person that provides the best quality for that job? Right? They're looking for a leader, not the best operator. Um, and I remember my top salesperson was outselling everybody by 2 or 3 fold below him. And he said to me, when are you going to make me a manager? I said, why the hell would I ever make you a manager? You're my best salesman. Yeah. And I think that's something that you really have to get your mindset right as a business owner. Careful who you promote because you could be losing a key member of your team, right, who does the job better than the majority of the rest of the team. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
Well, I think it's one of the mistakes I'd made in it's currently going back to the first company that I ever acquired. In that, to your point, Rob, we had an engineer who was probably better and more experienced than everybody else. And the decision I took at that time was to promote them to be office based and looking after everybody else and coordinating and then giving them the support. But I lost business performance because of it.
Yeah.
So, when he stepped back and looked at it, I should have gone about it in a different way.
From my perspective, I think something that I should have done, which is only something I've only learned recently, in the last few years, is that from managers and from the board, that both of those groups of people should not be doing a job. When you interview those people, it's about what value are you going to bring to that role? Yeah. So it's about adding value to the company because that's where you start to get that shareholder value. So the team that run the business, they're operationally involved. They're doing a task to keep that business running. From my perspective, the directors, the management, that whole upper team should be coming to the company and bringing something that the company didn't have before you took them on. Yeah. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, I think I do. I'm conscious now. We're just coming up to the hour,
Oh,
so
yes.
shall we just cover off those final stages and field any other
Yeah.
questions that we might have?
Yeah, sure, no problem at all. So I think we just covered that again. So was there anything in particular you wanted to cover off, or should we just wait? Is there any other questions, guys? I'll pop the last screen back up again.
Yeah. So remember, if you wanted to book a call, have some one-to-one with us and talk through anything that you've seen in the webinar today, or if there's any other specific questions that you've got that you've not asked during this call, please reach out to us, book something in our diaries, and we'd be happy to sit down with you and go through whatever questions you've got.
Just to finish off, just so you're aware of the schedule coming up. So like we said, next week we've got one of our platform companies, one of our new groups. Then we've got the following week, we've got a guest speaker. And then the following week after that, we've got another group. And so it could be one or the other. Just keep an eye on our post. You'll see the schedule coming up. And then we've got at the end of every 5-week cycle, we've got a virtual event where you can actually come along and go through the synergy model with us live. So that way, as a business owner, you can start to see how you could work with us.